All right. So I think we are good to go to start. It is about 17:34 Eastern Standard Time. As a disclaimer, as always, this is not sponsored by the Department of Defense, the United States Navy, and Medical Service Corps. Everybody that's on here right now is in a voluntary basis, especially the officers that are talking to you, reviewing the packages, etc. Just a quick recap before we dive into tonight's topic. Last week, we did a little bit of introduction of each other, kind of had the Q&A, and we showed you the direction of where we want to go in terms of how this MSc IPP Academy is going to go move forward. We have themes for each month. If you haven't noticed that, if you haven't seen the syllabus, I invite you to do so. For those of you that are just joining us for this specific session, so this month of February, we're more focused on our why, right? Like the personal, it revolves around that personal statement and motivation statement. And if you did homework, one of the questions there is the baseline foundation of the very first question of your personal statement is, why do you want to commission? Now, none of the officers have responded on purpose, because we wanted to take this opportunity so that you can kind of hear what's going on from our guest speaker today. The why is such an important aspect of it, because I would say for this, for the multiple amount of times that I had to do an interview, one of the things that officers ask you is, okay, well, why do you want to commission? Right. And if you don't know your why, or if you're using a cookie cutter version of a why, right, that you copied from someone, or like, you know what, that sounded so good, I'm going to use that. That's not yours, and it will show. Right. And I've had some officers, and especially I remember my first two tries, had some officers like, that sounds very familiar. Be honest with me. Did you use that from someone else? Right. Because these people have reviewed hundreds of packages. By these people, I mean these senior officers who've sat boards. They see if these are being recycled. So it's important to be authentic and true to yourself. This is why I'm so excited for tonight's topic and our guest speaker. I want to introduce him. He's a very, very good friend and a good brother of mine. We were stationed together as HMA school instructors. We were chiefs together. We were in that chiefs mess. Then after that, we followed each other's career ever since. I commissioned shortly thereafter. We separated and parted ways. And I knew he had that intention. He kept it on the hush hush a little bit. But I knew, while everybody else didn't know his plans and his moves, I knew that he wanted to commission. So I'm so glad that he's finally crossed over this side, right? The dark side, not really the dark side. So without further ado, I want to introduce our instructor today, our guest speaker. This is the last time I think he's going to be introduced in public as Chief McCauley, because pretty soon he will be Lieutenant J.G. McCauley. So without further ado, brother, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Lieutenant Abreu, for this awesome opportunity. Definitely missed the days of working with you down at Hospital Corpsman A School. Those were great times, and I look forward to working with you now in the Medical Service Corps. This will be awesome. Everyone, thank you for logging in. I am thankful that I was given this topic of starting with why, and I'll share with you something personal about me of why this is so important. So in the year of 2020, the month of September, the day 25th, I lost my father. He's my stepdad, but I call him my pops. And he came into my life as a young boy and kind of raised me, to be the man that I am today, teaching me some principles, right? Some morals and values that stuck with me forever. I remember when he turned 70, I flew in from San Antonio to visit him, and I gave him a card. And on that card, I wrote that your legacy will live on. And he started crying, and I didn't quite understand why he was in tears. So fast forward, that was, he passed away at age 72. Fast forward, I had started my master's degree, completed my master's degree, and I never forget, he would always tell me, so son, when are you going to start your doctorate degree? I was like, Pops, I'm not doing no doctorate. I'm perfectly fine with this master's. I'm good. And I did my graduation virtually for my master's degree, and he was there. And then, like I said, shortly after he passed, and when he passed away, I can always hear him in my head saying, "Hey, son, when are you going to do your doctorate degree?" So after his passing, I decided to start my doctorate degree, and I'm glad that I started that path. But during that time frame, I noticed in the world there were a lot of things going on, whether it was dealing with the pandemic that just started, social injustices that were going on, and just so many reasons for the average American or the average person to be depressed. So I picked up a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I started reading this book called Start With Why. And it led me to understanding the importance of finding your purpose in life. And as I read that book, for some reason, my computer saying its battery is going low, but I'm plugged in. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure my plug is in. I'm going to plug it into a wall over here. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I could just want to have my battery good. Okay, there we go. All right, so as I was reading Start With Why, it made me focus. It made me refocus on myself. In regards to, submitting for my package, I had wrote my personal statement many times. I had wrote my personal statement many times, and I shot it around, and I was trying to get everyone's guidance on what should my personal statement say. And I can be honest with you, the first time I submitted my package, which was before many of the things happened that I told you about, I wasn't very, I would say I wasn't very authentic in what I was writing. It was kind of like I was trying to please some people while still trying to tell a story. And so when I submitted my package again, this was after I had read that book and after what had happened to me with my pops. I really started diving deep down into myself and saying, why do I really want to do this? What is my purpose in life? What is my purpose in this world? Because the truth of the matter is, and if you read that book, once you find your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing, it really doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, because it's always going to fall back on why you're doing it. And so I realized one reason why I enjoyed being in the military was because I enjoyed taking care of people and serving people. Why I enjoyed being a chief at the time was because I enjoyed taking care of people and serving people. Why did I want to become a medical service corps officer? Well, because I wanted to continue taking care of people and serving people. However, I want to do it from a different perspective. So, when it came to my personal statement, I never figured I had an interview with a senior officer. I won't say their name, but I had an interview with them, and he read my statement, and we had a conversation. He said, Chief McCauley, why didn't you share more about you in your personal statement? Because what you just told me, I didn't see this in your personal statement. I didn't see this in why you're applying. And I thought about it for a second. I thought to myself, I said, you're right. Why didn't I put that in my personal statement? Why didn't I share? Why didn't I open up more? Why was I being more reserved about who I am instead of truly giving the board members exactly who Tristan Allen Mc Cauley is? Not Chief McCauley, but Tristan Allen Mc Cauley. Who am I? So I opened up. I shared a lot about what happened in my life, from being a child all the way up to things that happened while I was serving, to even what happened recently with my pops. And I look at that personal statement and what I finished with versus what I started with. If you read that personal statement of what is in my package now, it hits. It tells you who I am. It really tells you who I am. Like, you can literally read that and you can say, all right, now I understand why you want to do this. Because, I put myself in their shoes. If I'm looking at your statement and I don't know who you are, this is the statement that I get from you. I need to be able to feel this. I need to understand that you really want this. And in your statement, you're telling me why you really want this. Like, what drove you? What motivated you intrinsically? What have you been through? And even with everything that you've been through, why? Why this? What does being a naval officer, a medical service corps officer, and a healthcare administrator, how does that serve why you're here? What is your ultimate being purpose of being on Earth? And I'll kind of end with this. I don't know how much time I have, but I said this the other day at an officer commission brief. I hear sailors say quite often, I want to be a naval officer. Okay. There's a lot of naval officers. I hear some sailors say, well, I want to be a medical service corps officer. Okay. There's a lot of specialties in medical service corps. What do you want to do? What do you want to be and why? If you want to be a healthcare administrator, why specifically that? If you want to be a medical service corps officer, why that? Well, you want to be a naval officer, why that? But you need to speak to that. Why? Why? Because I can tell you, ladies and gents, it's not, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this commissioning because I just want to be a naval officer, or I just want to be a medical service corps officer, or I just want to be a healthcare administrator. I want to make change. What my pops went through, I don't want a service member to have to go through that. I don't want any civilian to have to go through that. So how can I affect change? How can I help? How can I share my story and help you understand what I've seen and what I've witnessed, and help the military health system with the rest of the officers that are here? How can we work together to make it better? How can we move it forward? How can we be more innovative? But first, why are you here? So that's pretty much what I have in regards to that. I like I said, start with why. The book is what set me on that path. It's all about finding your purpose, right? There's a golden circle, and on the outside of that circle is what you do. In the middle part of that circle is how you do what you do, but the inner part of the circle is why you do what you do. And a lot of people can talk about what they do. Many people can talk about how they do it, but not a lot of people can tell you why they do what they do. Okay, it's not a rational thing. It doesn't just click. Like when somebody asks you, why do you love someone, or why do you do this? So you have to think about it. And it's all the little things that make up to why. So figure out why you really want to do this, and capture that and put that in your personal statement.
Wow, you basically summarized the book, brother. That's like super awesome. And I like how you focused a lot on the 3 golden circles of the Start With Your Why. And we had a question, who's the author of Start With Why? Simon Sinek, or Sinek. Sorry if I'm butchering his last name, Mr. Sinek. If you ever see this video, I do apologize in advance. But it's an amazing book, right? And I think you hit it right you hit the nail right in the head about a lot of people can talk about what and how. And the reason why I'm re-emphasizing that is because I'm about to put some people in the spotlight. Don't worry, your name's not on these statements on here, but we're going to go over it together, Chief McCauley and I. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there's a lot of what's and how's, but there's still some why that's missing, right? And this is where the active participation will come into play right now. Before we look at those statements, somebody like quickly raise their hand. Who would like to tell me, based on what you heard of what Chief McCauley said, what was Chief McCauley's why? Anyone? It's not graded, everybody. I promise you. Well, it's, if you don't get this answer correct, it's not like, oh, don't select them, ma'am. They don't know the answer. This is how we learn. It's through participation. Melissa Timlin, go ahead. I know it's a little, yeah, there's an unmute. The mic thing has to be unmuted. Sorry. I'm not sure. I can't unmute you from my end, unfortunately. Ms. Timlin, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, there you go. Yes.
Hi. So I heard a lot of, I want to help people based on his experiences, which often in the healthcare industry can be very negative and impact people negatively and just give them a lot of doubt when they're most needing people to help them. So from that experience, I just feel like that is a lot of motivation to move forward to try to make sure that people get the help that they need.
Okay, that's good. So I want to, that's part of it, right? He wants to help it, but there was still that why part, right? There's like, when you dig deeper, like, well, why do you want to help people, right? We asked you, Macaulay, and he mentioned it a couple of times, and you mentioned it too, Ms. Timlin, about how that experience, right? There's a significant experience in his life that drove him to push him to do this purpose of helping people and just go to the next level, right? And what was that experience? Give me another hand right there. Tristan, my instructor side's coming out again. Miss Simmons.
Yes, from what I gathered, it seems like he wants to serve in a greater capacity in order to continue on with his father's legacy.
Okay, there you go. So that's what I got too, right? So if you, without knowing him, you read his statement, he mentioned something about an experience with his father, right? That propelled him to live his purpose of helping people. The helping people is the what, is the how, right? How he's going to accomplish that, and the what, right? That's a little bit of combination, but ultimately the why, which propelled him to do that, is the experience that had with his father, right? And that's what I've missed too with all my applications. I've been talking about like my hows and my whats, but a lot of us miss the whys. So thank you for the two of you that participated in that one. And I'm gonna bring in the statements here on the screen, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. All right, share. I didn't put names on here, so don't worry. All right, let me zoom in here. All right, so this one is a sample one, right? So Tristan, if you don't know what we did, I simply asked them in an assignment, like, why do you want to commission, right? That's the very first thing. No word limitations. I think I did say 2 to 3 sentences, but I kind of just wanted to capture that. So this is for the first sample. I'm going to read it to the group. And then again, I'm just not putting people on the spotlight or calling you out, but this is how we learn, right? I'm commissioning as a healthcare administrator because I'm drawn to policy, advocating, building, and restructuring health organizations to optimize quality performance and patient satisfaction. More importantly, I'm drawn to personnel welfare. Although the latter can be fulfilled as an enlisted leader, however, to make a critical impact for lasting structural changes in healthcare quality and patient satisfaction without physician or staff burnout, I would be better positioned as a HCA to fulfill this role. As a student member of the ACHC, I see many active duty officers actively serving in various capacities, such as HCA Mentor Program, the NU MPH Committee, the Navy HRO Program. Seeing this individual striving for a better healthcare system inspires me to add my bit to the fight for the better patient care quality of service, improve organizational culture, and an interoperability for our electronic health records. So that is one of the answers to the why do you want to commission. Again, when we started, I want to give caveat, this is the officers that join here will give you the truth, right? And we will not tell you it's like, oh, you're doing okay. We will critique each other's work, and some of this will be this forum. And that's what we've found that's very beneficial for you to learn. Oop, Chief Macaulay dropped off of the call. But I'll wait till he comes back on here. But while we're waiting on him, I put this on bold right here because, oh, there you are. I thought you disappeared on us, brother. So what are your thoughts, Tristan or Chief Macaulay?
All right, you said we could be frank and honest here?
Yeah, this is a frank and honest conversation, safe space, no judgment on here.
Yeah, as you were reading that first paragraph, that's probably something I may have wrote my first time ever doing this, but after going through this process, that paragraph is I'm reading that, and all I can see is that tells me nothing about why you want to be here. Like, this literally tells me it's kind of like maybe this person may have spoke to someone, or maybe you learned a lot in school about, healthcare administration, and you're right, building and restructuring organizations, all that is good. But that says nothing about why you want to be a naval officer, a medical service corps officer, and a healthcare administrator. That it shares no experience. It has no emotions, no heart. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a 10-man paragraph. I'm gonna be honest with you. Even Siri didn't like it. But yeah, I would say definitely whoever wrote this, again, please don't take this personal, but that needs to go as far as why you are applying.
And
In
I
my
agree.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Chief too. And the reason why the first two statement is in bold, I think this is more of like the what's, right? I'm drawn to advocating people. Like this is more of like the what's, in my opinion, right? And that's why personal statements take time. And this is why this is the first batch of thing that we're talking about. Is the why is the hardest part, I promise you. So if you think that I'm just like, I've written so many essays, I've gotten A's on all my writing courses, I got this. I promise you, it's like a very, very hard thing to do, right? So this one, I say, yes, it's a lot more what's, but I agree, I didn't get the why feel on this, right? I'm still like wondering, as okay, I feel like it's more of a cookie cutter statement of what a senior officer would hear, and take away the mindset of a sailor of the quarterboard. That's one of our biggest mistakes as prior enlisted, and we do this, right? Because this is what they want to hear in the JSOQ and the SSOQ. And we practice that, and it's ingrained in our heads. And it shows too when it comes to these packages that we forget, we water down our true authentic selves on that one. So thank you for your thoughts on that one. Two more samples, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Sample number 2, I'm going to read it up to the group. I intend to make good of every opportunity opportunity the Navy provided me with no regret. I have learned my enlisted rate and followed the lineman growth. Now I stand ready for increased responsibility. Making chief will continue my linesman growth, while being an officer will widen my room for growth. HCA will fulfill my desire to work in the medical field and afford me the experience needed to establish a clinic or lab upon retirement from service in my country of birth. Chief McCauley, thoughts?
Yeah, so again, with here, I would definitely take out anything that in regards to making chief. This is a personal statement of becoming an officer. And I can tell you, as being a chief, talking about chief is not what needs to be in here. You need to tailor this to you hopefully being selected to become an officer. Now, going back to the why, again, there's no experience, there's no heartfelt, there's no emotion, there's no, like, what is it? What happened to you? What in your life? What have you been through that made you wake up one day and say, I want to do, like, this is for me. And no matter what, I'm not stopping until I get there. What is that? Because right here, you're talking about lineman growth and you know, making chief and writing room for growth if you get ACA. Leave that out. It's kind of like what you said earlier about the sailor to quarter answers. Talk to the board as people, right? You're trying to join them, right? You're trying to join them in what they do. And if, let's say if their role is, let's say if the role is, you know, we want to lead the future of healthcare, so forth and so on. Tell the board members why you want to be a part of that. What made it? What happened in your life that makes you want to be a part of that? Like that's the best thing I can say from my standpoint about the why is what happened to you? What made you say I no longer want to be chief? I want to be a healthcare administrator. And you don't have to put about chief in there at all. Leave chief out. Just focus on becoming a naval officer, medical service corps officer, in whatever specialty that you want to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think whoever wrote this statement too, this one has a lot of untapped potential. This statement right here, make good of the Navy provided me, make good of every opportunity the Navy provided me with no regret. Immediately, I was like, what are those opportunities? Give me one that made you was like, I'm ready. I'm ready for increased responsibility. What was it? Was it because when you first joined the process improvement group, a light bulb just turned on because you saw the impact of that small project that you did within your department, that the hospital, everybody in the hospital or your unit started to applaud? Was that it that pulled you, right? So whoever wrote this of like, make good of every opportunity, that's what I was focused on. And I kept asking, what was that? That's your why, right? Whoever wrote this. The last one, sample number 3, right? Let's see. When I wrote my 8th grade time capsule, I wrote that I wanted to travel parts of the world and be a part of aid relief, a hope which has never faded. Being a Master Chief is admirable. And also to caveat to Chief McCauley, part of the prompt questions too was it wasn't meant to be written on here, but just as a guide to like make them think of why you want to be an officer and not chief or master chief. So that's probably why they put it on here, just in case. Being a Master Chief is admirable as they are the guardians of enlisted sailors and their overall well-being and development. I like that. But my educational track and professional experience prior to the Navy has led me on a path of higher education towards executive operations and functions within the realm of healthcare, mental health care, and addiction treatment. Having 7 years in, this invaluable experience has immersed a wealth of administrative naval knowledge, which combined with my skills could be best utilized as a healthcare administrator. I couldn't hope for a better opportunity to serve humanitarian needs while also overseeing healthcare facilities programs to success. Chief, what are your thoughts?
So this one made me smile a little bit. I'll admit. I kind of like this one. So I'm gonna tell you a few things that caught me. First off, the 8th grade time capsule, the whole thing caught me. I'm like, okay, you took me back. I like that. That's personable. I dig it. And then also, when whoever wrote this started talking about, especially when you started talking about mental health care and addiction treatment, now I would kind of tie that into, okay, so if you brought that up, what happened? What did you see in your life that made you want to focus on mental health care and addiction treatment? Because maybe there's an experience that you may be willing to share, i.e. maybe you had a sister or a father that had alcohol addiction, and that has now propelled you to want to, et cetera, et cetera. That's personable. Like this paragraph has some things in it where I'm smiling because I'm like, you're with a little tweak and peak, you're on the right path. And then also, I also liked how this person tied it into the invaluable experience has immersed a wealth of administrative naval knowledge, which combined with my skills could be best utilized as a healthcare administrator. I like that sentence because now you're confident, but you're not cocky. It's like you're saying, I have the tools to succeed if you all will accept me, versus saying, you all need me. You know what I'm saying? So I really like this one. I really feel like this is a great starting point to move forward. Just my opinion.
Awesome. That was a great, like, I wanted to do that exercise for a reason. So if your statements are one of those, this is not meant to like put you down or anything. This is how we learn, right? I promise you some, my greatest mentors were the tough ones that says, what is this, an SOQ package? Give me another one. That's like, some of them were that tough. But before I open it up to Q&A, H1 Teagle, are you on the line right now? He might be listening in. I wanted to hear his thoughts because he's one of the most recent.
I just found my mute button. Yeah, I'm here.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to get your thoughts real quick because I think Chief McCauley and I both agree the why part was the hardest part for us. I was just wondering, when you were developing your personal statement, did you have that same feeling of the why? And if you don't mind sharing real quick, what was that quick why that you put in your statement?
Absolutely. So the personal statement for me, it definitely started out like an SOQ package. I think that that's a good point to bring up. As enlisted, we've been writing our evals for the most part. We've been writing those packages for the most part. And we have a way that we're set in, but this is a personal statement. We need to focus on that personal aspect of ourselves and how we're going to bring that into our commissioning package. So for me personally, I put about my father. He's a retired senior chief, and how his lessons that he taught me are going to make me a better leader, and how I can use that to be a better officer. And then just building around that, building about why, what in your career have you done? What have you seen? Just make it personal, because if you write it like that SOQ package, it's going to seem very cookie cutter, like we've mentioned. So digging into those personal things, don't be afraid to put that on there and to share it. I think that's going to make your statement really strong.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. And I know what a coincidence, like Chief McCauley and HM1 Teagle talking about their fathers, right? I had remember one specific mentee of mine's like, do I have to be dramatic and make people cry in the board? Like, what if I don't have that? So I said, no, this is not meant to be a soap opera of like, oh gosh, I need a tearjerker. And you start lying. And because I promise you, if you do that, it's going to catch up to you and they will smell it. Your why could be your own personal experience or a struggle that you've experienced personally, or it doesn't even have to be a struggle. And I mentioned very early on, I used the light bulb moment of your experience that made you want to, yep, it's time for me to put on these shoes these shoes and the cover as a naval officer, right? That it's time, right? There's that single moment, and it doesn't have to be a tearjerker of like, I remember when I was in the middle of Afghanistan and I saw this young child, which is valid, right? And not to make fun of the physician assistants or that statement, but I see that very commonly with IDCs, right? They're using their personal experience, those deployments, of why they want to like further their career because they're not done. They're like, I need to take it up to a next level, and that being a physician assistant will help me get there and spread my impact of helping people, right? So that's what I wanted to like take home, because I just quickly remembered while HM1 was speaking is I had that mentee specifically ask me that, do I have to be dramatic, is the words that they use to have my why. The answer is no. So just like always, we've done like the discussion portion. Now I'm opening it up to Q&A. Since we value everybody's time here, please, the floor is yours. Feel free to type it in the Q&A, or please unmute your mic. And, you have several individuals on here, brand new selectee, one that got selected last year, and myself. Any questions for us? Okay, while we're waiting for questions, if there's none, Chief McCauley, any parting words?
Yes, I was thinking as you were talking, and you brought up a valid point. I want to reiterate what Lieutenant Abreu said about dramatic. It's, even when I shared my story with you all, and even the way I wrote it in my personal statement, please do not take that as, it being dramatic or as a tearjerker, because I'll tell you, when I applied, before my pops passed away, when I applied, it was me applying because, and this is me being honest with you all, it was me applying because I met the requirements to apply, right? But once my pops passed away, in the way that's the thing. It's not that my pops passed away, because I'm a very spiritual man, so I know he's in a better place. But it was the way everything went down in regards to the hospital setting, in the civilian sector where he was at. And so when I saw, things that, especially if you work in the medical field, you've been working in it for a long time, you're familiar with electronic health records, you're familiar with charting, you're just familiar with how things kind of go. And when I saw the way things were going with my pops, I'm like, that's not right. On top of learning this in school and seeing it, I'm like, that's not right. So it's the way that he passed away and how everything went is, I said, I owe that. Not just to him, but, and I had a talk with my prior CO, Captain Patton. I got to give her a shout out. She was prior CO at Naval Hospital, Pensacola. I called her and I said, I asked her, how should I feel about this? And she said, you need to go and be a healthcare administrator, because if that happened to you and your father, imagine how many other people that could happen to. So you could help make that change. So I had a conviction, right? I had a purpose. I had a reason. I had a real reason to whether I got selected this route or not. I was going to do this out in the civilian sector. Mm-hmm. My goal was to go out and try to make things better, so people don't suffer, because nobody's family should have to suffer, and no service member should have to suffer. So when I wrote this package, I had a conviction behind my personal statement, and every interview that I did, and every letter of recommendation, and every time I called Lieutenant Abreu, anybody I talked to, there was a conviction behind it. I wasn't stopping, and I literally told senior officers that I had interview appraisals with, I said, if I don't get selected this go around, I will be back. I will be back. I won't stop. I don't care if it take me 10 times, I'm coming back. Y'all gonna get tired of seeing my name. So when you get to that point where you have a true conviction, like your purpose is driving you, there's nothing that can stop you. And even if you don't get selected, you'll be right back on it. I'll end with this. I submitted my package this year, probably 6 months ahead of time. I didn't wait. I immediately got that checklist and started going. And I was in my CO's office, and I sat down with my CO, and you know, we had a personal moment, even to the point where I teared up. That's how focused I was. And I sent that package off well ahead of time. And I told Miss Kemp, I'll be ready. But that's it.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
No, that's awesome, brother. And thank you so much. And I agree. I remember the first package versus the second time. I was like, remember, I texted you, right? It's like, this is it. This is it. It has that sweet taste to it. But yeah, you can definitely feel it through the statements and stuff. And, you know, like comparing it. I kept all my applications, and maybe one of our sessions, I'll share like how mine progressed from package number 1 to package number 7. You'll just see this like change of like cookie cutter all the way up. But please don't wait for that, because then people are like, oh, I'm going to use that as my tool. No, start with your why now, right? So without further ado, if there's no more questions, I'll stay behind for a little bit, but we like to keep it like less than 45 minutes, which we've been accomplishing so far, because HCIs are amazing at time management. But without further ado, thank you so much, guys. Happy Friday. Enjoy your Friday. Thank you. Thanks, Tristan. Appreciate it.
You too, brother. Have a good weekend. Love you, man.
All right. Bye.